Top 10 Things About Rodents with James Rodriguez of JT Eaton, all on this edition of the Pest Geek Podcast.
Pull out your hose and grab your can. We're about to integrate another Pest Geek Podcast. Hi, everybody. Frank Hernandez here, and welcome to the Pest Geek Podcast, bringing you the latest information on pests, products, and politics from today's leading industry sources to help you start, manage, and grow your pest control business.
Hey, welcome back. Welcome back to another edition of the Pest Geek Podcast. I am your host, Frank Hernandez. Happy New Year's to you, everybody. Hope you guys had a wonderful Christmas, a wonderful New Year's, and you're getting ready to get this new year started right. And we just killed it last year. I am so ecstatic about what we were able to accomplish. We had record sales. I blew my sales goal by 8% over what I planned to do. And we already got our sales plan for this year of what we're going to be attacking. And I'm telling you, I'm just ecstatic about what's happening. So I hope you guys are doing well. You're keeping warm up there in the Northeast, because I know it's blistering cold. We've, had a blistering, I think we had a 79-degree Christmas in the New Year's. So it was really, really warm. But I am excited about today's podcast with James Rodriguez. Awesome guy to talk to. We had a blast recording this podcast, and he's going to be coming on really, really shortly. So I want to thank him for that. I want to thank Joe Gavoric of Community Pest Solutions for liking the podcast, liking what we do, following us. We really, really do thank you for that. And Massey Services at Massey Services, which need no introduction. They're following us on Twitter. Thank you for that. Thank you for following us. Also, guys, wherever you find yourself listening to this podcast, please give us a review. Take a time to give us some stars. Write us a review on iTunes, Stitcher, anywhere that you find yourself listening to this podcast. We would greatly appreciate that. Also, remember, keep reaching out. National Pest Management Association regarding getting their material out on an accessible form. I've got some stuff that I've been studying online about sales from great organizations. As a matter of fact, I think I'm going to put it on there on the website, a couple of links, to see what these guys are doing, these conferences, and yet they're still putting the conferences out on YouTube. Why? Because they're people, it's called marketing. It's called promotion. Not everybody's going to go to your event, but those that want to go and those that want the camaraderie will be there anyway. So, check it out so you can see what I'm talking about. These people are putting on these high-level enterprise conferences, and then they're putting them out on Facebook. On YouTube. So there's no reason why that stuff can't be done. Even if we had to purchase them, we would be willing to purchase. Remember, I'm going to keep harping on this until somebody pays attention. If you want to join the conversation, 707-395-7378. Give us a call. You can call from anywhere in the world. Leave us a voicemail, and we will use that voicemail on the air to help other people in the podcast. We greatly appreciate your comments. Also, you can send us an email, questions at pestgeekpodcast.com, and there I also respond to all the emails. Also, join the Pest Geek Society at pestgeekpodcast.com. There's a members section. Right now, it's open. It's free. You can register, and there's members only stuff that we put on there so that you can get the material, get the information that is only available to members only. So we greatly do appreciate that. Also, there's some cool tools that I want to share with you. One of them is called Rat Wall. And Rat Wall is a stainless steel unit that fits securely within the clay or PVC pipe of a manhole chamber in the inlet on the outlet to allow water to flow through and material to flow through, but it will not allow rats to come into the building. I have a video on that at the website. If you go to this actual post that we're going to be discussing, and there's going to be a video. So check it out. I think it's a great, neat product. Also, James is going to introduce the book today that he's been reading, and so I'm going to let him introduce that book in the podcast. And in the mergers and acquisitions, this bug out services and all safe termite and pest control merge to add about $500,000 in annual revenue servicing the Ocala area. So not a big merger, but little companies are merging to, I guess, grow bigger and have a little bit more power. And, it's really neat that one happened. It wasn't a mega merger, but you can see even the little ones as small as a $500,000 merger are happening all over the place. And also a reminder that the Business and Operations Expo is Saturday, January 14th and 15th. There's also from the 12th actually to the 14th, and then the training conferences are all the way the 13th and 14th. And we're going to be there 13th and 14th for the training conferences, and we're going to be there all day. We're going to be interviewing people on the floor of the exhibit hall, and hopefully we'll bring you some new and exciting products that are coming out and get to talk to some reps about some solutions there. But I think it's great. It's I think right now it's $150 for the conference per person for the 2-day conference. So check it out. I'm going to have a link to that on the show notes so you also can join. And without further ado, I want to bring on James Rodriguez from JT Eaton. I got on the phone James Rodriguez from JT Eaton Company, and we're going to be discussing rodent problems. Now, James has 31 years experience in pest control. He's been with JT Eaton now for about 10 years, and he also is a pest control operator in the state of California in structural, fume, pest control, and right-of-ways, and he's also a certified associate certified entomologist, an ACE. So we're going to be discussing what he does and all things about rodent. Hey, James, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thank you so much. I appreciate being here. And all that experience just means that I love the industry, Frank. I mean, That's it. I really do.
No, so tell us about, because you started 31 years ago in pest control. Tell us what did you do? How did you get involved, first of all, in pest control?
Well, I wanted to be an engineer or work in the steel industry, high beam construction and everything. My dad put up buildings and he was an inspector and stuff. And I wanted to go that direction. But you know what? I was always covered in grease and shops and stuff. And I saw my friend on a fume job, and he had a nice uniform, and he was with his boss, and it was a really clean truck. And I thought, that he looks like he's doing pretty well. And he came over and he talked to me, and I found out from him, if you can get licensed in this industry, they pay you more money. And I said, oh, that works for me. I said, well, how many licenses are there? He goes, oh, man, there's so many. He goes, and everyone you get a rip. I said, I'm in. So I quit my job that day, and I went over there and I applied. and for about 10 years, I took every license and every test and certification I could.
Wow. So, and where were you pretty much out of?
I was out of the Los Angeles area, San Fernando Valley, Beverly Hills, Hollywood, Malibu. Yeah, all that area.
Gotcha. So
California is really a unique environment.
Yeah, no, I've been only to San Diego. I only managed to get to San Diego, and I was in the San Bernardino Mountains and down in the valley. That's I spent a couple of days there. It was beautiful. I mean, I thought it was beautiful to be in that part of the country because, I've seen mountains before, but that was really, really neat to be out there. So that's the only part of California I've actually seen. I don't do as much traveling as you do.
Yeah, there's more to see if you can bear the traffic. Plan your trips accordingly.
Yeah, no, traffic I'm used to. It's a nightmare here, man.
There you go.
I hear in California the traffic is in certain areas just unbearable. But
right.
But tell us what you do now, because you're the technical director at JT Eaton.
Yeah, at JT Eaton, what's really cool about them is they are a family company, and there's been plenty of opportunity for me. And like I said, if I can pass a test or get licensed or do other stuff to advance myself in the company, That's been my MO. And with Eaton, I got to start as a sales guy and work my way up through different positions. The position I'm in now is kind of interesting because I get to evaluate and, work on our product line quite a bit and bring new stuff to market, which is really fun because I get to test a lot of things. I get to see the science behind it and the development. I get to compare what we're trying to do versus our competitors, down to the tackiness of glue and looking at the testing. How tacky is our glue? Because I get some guys that say, hey, your glue doesn't work. And when I like that, I want to say, okay, well, what is the tackiness of this particular run of glue? What's going on with it? So I get into the industry and, I get to improve our products. The other thing that's fun about it is I get to work with all the when it comes to knowledge, down to what baits, how our bait is being developed, what our products, our aerosols, what's going on with those, down to the can of our bed bug spray. Like our bed bug spray, I wanted a red. If you know our product, it's a 217P, kills bed bugs plus. I wanted a red can, so I got a red can. Stuff like that, And then teaching is fun, and getting our message out there, and any problems that might develop on all parts of the industry, from farm and ag to commercial to residential. But my heart is in residential, to be honest. I really love it. I grew up in it. And I love solving problems like that. On commercial, there's a lot of good guys that specialize in commercial. I'm good at it, or some people say that I'm really good at it. But my love has always been with the little guy and the small problems, or on the residential side, apartment buildings and stuff like that.
Right. So you travel a lot through. What's your territory like? You travel a lot throughout the country.
I try to stay on the western part of the United States, from Texas to Hawaii, and I include Alaska on that. But some of it is just managing accounts, and some of it is traveling. I think it's 11 states now, but I get to work on key accounts and travel across the nation now. Mm-hmm. And I'm even down in Florida. I'm down, I'm on the East Coast a little bit. But fortunately, because of the technology, I don't have to go over there every time unless there's key account meetings. But I do travel, 180, 190 days out of the year. I got 100 flights under my belt, not including how much driving I love to do. And it's a big route, Frank, and that's what's fun about it. And I get to see different problems,
right?
And, all over my side of the territory, and now on the East Coast, I get to see a lot of different problems, and it's fun. It's fun to see.
Right, because
problems aren't fun to.
Yeah,
I think that sounds weird. Problems aren't fun to see, but for me, when you're talking about rodent control issues and stuff, problems are fun to solve.
Right, yeah, because I'm here in South Florida, and I talk to guys and text with other people and stuff from all over the country that to them it's what down here is like, seems like a cinch, because all the stuff that they have to do based on their construction, how different everything is depending on where you go. It just, like with me, rodent control down here is like super simple, because we have a lot of houses that are very sealed up. We don't have crawl spaces. We don't have basements. We don't have a lot of things that some people have in structure. That seems to be a bigger problem. Everything here is pretty much sealed up, and with the exception of a couple of really older homes. So that's, to be able to have, experience other things, sewer issues and things like that I don't experience. I have no clue of what that would be.
And most people don't. Most people don't, Frank. It's regional. I mean, we get stuck in particular areas.
Right.
We're not stuck, just like me with Southern California. The good thing about Southern California is there's basements, crawl spaces, there's slabs, there's new construction, giant homes. The variety was there because it is an older city. In some cases, they're just basements in areas.
Right.
There's not very much crawl spaces. So, yeah, you're right. It is a regional thing, and that's what's good about seeing the different problems that come out of that.
Just out of curiosity, like what's been one of the most difficult things you've encountered to solve in your career, as far as like what's really stood out that, oh man, that was a real doozy?
Well, what sticks with me today is, it was probably even about 20, 30 years ago. And now that I know a little bit more about it, it was an eye opener, is dealing with an adult male rat. And I was dealing with a Norway rat in an attic. And the interesting thing about that is it took me about 3 weeks to catch him.
Wow.
And I had to use different tools, and it was a big, heavy guy, and it made noise. And fortunately, the customer, I caught other rats out of there. The customer had confidence in me, and I did identify it as, probably an adult male. So I informed the customer what was going on. But that one still haunts me today because, now I have the tools to solve a problem like that, and now I have a little bit more under my belt. But they're so cautious that, I ended up killing it on a Victor rat trap, and it died of a concussion because it was setting off my traps. It accidentally got hit. So I got lucky on that one.
So you didn't really trap him; you just nailed him, and he died from getting smacked in the head.
It was enough. Yeah, he died of a concussion. I still remember that because I had to go fish it out of the attic.
Oh wow! Yeah, to this day that haunts me, to try to go in attics, and that's one of my biggest fears. That thing is going to die somewhere, and I'm going to have to go fish for it. And where the heck is it?
Well, that's what happened. I think the frustration of not being able to catch it and spending all your time, it did turn into a hunt. And that was before, some of the trail cams and other stuff, technology that we have today.
As far as because you do a lot of training, let's go through it, because I know there's usually a lot of steps that, depending on where you're at and what the questions people ask. But in the training that you do, walk us through the aspects of how you train in different situations, what you're doing, for apartment buildings or for managers or for something like that. I mean, it's usually there's an emotional aspect to it. Because, I mean, somebody sees a rat walking across their floor, that's not pleasant.
Right.
So that usually I get a frantic call from somebody. You got to come out now and catch it, because I just saw it run around my living room or whatever. Go through all the steps that, I mean, as far as your training and how do we get better at this?
Yeah, in every class that I put on, I've always asked the audience. I've always said, when does a customer want their rat out? And the answer amongst everyone is now or yesterday.
Right.
So you're right. The psychological aspects of it with any account, that's where it starts. And with us, there's some guys that really like being the hired killer and going out there and say, you know what, I'm going to be able to go out there and I'm going to be able to solve this problem right away. Or, man, you called the right guy. I'm the best at it. But one of the things that I see with big accounts and some of the frustration is showing that empathy, you got to be a psychologist when you pull up to it. You got to be because people don't like rats. Human nature is, if there's a rat in there, there's fear. It's a dirty animal. There's all these associations going, and they're right. I mean, with all the bacteria and viruses that they carry, hantavirus, the plague is coming back. It's in 13. Plague is in 13 states or
Wow.
11 states right now. There's a comeback on that, but the empathy part is a way to start, and they have to be able to try to. Even though customers don't want to deal with it, they have to include them in the process as much as possible. That's the start of it, and that's how I start my seminars with everything. And the second part of that is really working with the program and focusing on the areas where they're seeing the infestation, where the customer is seeing the infestation. That leads back to that empathy part. Here's an example. Let's say they found it. They saw rat droppings in their child's room. Okay, the panic is going to start out. And we know in urban areas or in poor areas, the rats will actually go up to the child's bottle or lips and start licking the lips of the baby or feeding off of the bottle. Not to be gross, but it happens.
Right.
But the fear of that is we may get to that room and see that there's not any openings. The rat just wandered into there looking for a food source. But what we have to do is we have to get on our hands and knees. We have to get into the closets. We have to move things in order to satisfy that psychological issue that they're dealing with this rodent. But building that trust. Some of the other issues too is that I see is when they're doing the inspection, and I'm going to focus on residential.
Okay.
If you don't mind, is that cool with you?
No, that's fine. That's fine. Let's focus on one thing. That's good.
Okay. Think of on a residential structure. There's a lot of guys that make the mistake, and you mentioned attics earlier. Not using a drop cloth. They go in and they open up the attic. The insulation falls on the carpet or falls on the floor. Little stuff like that. That ties into the type of person that you are and quality of work that you're able to do. If you care enough to bring in a drop cloth when you're doing your inspection or something to protect the owner's home, sure, they're afraid, but we have to keep in mind that you're still trying to make the sale.
Right.
That part is key. I guess looking at getting on your hands and knees and looking at and addressing the problem right away. Because talking to people, I've asked them in the seminars also, and this is in all the different states that I work in. It's like, okay, where do you start your inspection? And there's always a mix of hands. Some want it, some say outside, some say, where the problem was solved, or where they've seen the problem. But there is a show of hands. Hey, I start on the outside. I want to find out how it got in. Well, think of it right now. In some areas, maybe, or even your area, it rains there, right? In Florida, you get quite a bit of rain.
Man, sometimes like 80 inches, yeah.
And in other areas, right now, in the winter time, they're dealing with snow, or just even somebody watering their grass in the summer, and they're walking around the property, and there's getting mud on their shoes. They're crawling in bushes, and they're getting all this stuff on them. I always say, start your inspection first on the inside where you can and where the problem was found. It seems simple enough, but there is a lot of technicians that I see just by my informal surveys where they start on the outside because they want to find out where the problem was. Show that empathy. Start on the inside. Get your drop cloth. Get your gloves on. And your gloves is just your personal PPE, because if you are dealing in parts where there's, where a rodent's been in, who wants, with a mouse, they're leaving 3,000 micro droplets of urine around, and who wants to put their hand in a mouse hole? They poke their fingers in it. It's like, hey, check this out. There's a hole. They're poking their fingers in there, and that mouse knows it's a positive area, and there's mouse urine there, and I want to keep the pest control guy safe. So I try to focus on that. Some of the common mistakes on an inspection, or when they're going to a job, or when they're at a job, I'm a stickler for first impressions. And first impressions do mean a lot, and showing up late has always been a pet peeve of mine. Because when we're talking about inspection, we're starting at the beginning, your first impression. You got to be on time. You have to be on time. If not, you have to have some form of communication. And if you can tighten your windows of your time periods of arriving, especially with technology, with texting, with emailing, with all of that, you can narrow your time frames. On your iPhones, you can send your location, to them when you're en route. There's technology that you can use, to let your customers know where you're at. And a lot of the larger companies already have this process in place. But some of the smaller companies, it's easy to send your location from an iPhone. I'm only saying iPhone, Frank, because that's what I have.
Right.
But your first impressions also when you're showing up for the job, when you're making your inspections, is be ready to work. You know, when you walk up to your customer's place, and we've all done this. We walk up to our customer's place. We have our flashlight in hand, and we're ready to do our rat inspection. And your customer sees you with a flashlight. You go in, they open the door, you see your flashlight, but really at that point, are you ready to work? You have to do other things too when you show up to the door, and this will beat out your competition every time. It'll beat out your big guys. A lot of your competition does that. They show up to the door with a flashlight. I say show up ready to work, with your tool belt on, with your screwdriver, with your gloves, knee pads if you need them, even a small towel as a small drop cloth in particular areas. If you're digging out something, be ready to pick it up. If you're going into a rat hole or looking for holes around on the interior of a structure, but show up with a tool belt or something and be ready to work. That's what's going to separate these guys on their inspection from some of their competition. Starting on the inside, I did mention that. The other thing is we do our inspections, and I say we're because, again, I'm still licensed. It's still in me, but I include myself in this process. But when we're talking to our customers and selling the job and doing inspection, there's always in the back of the mind, in our mind, is how many other guys have they called? I mean, would you say that that's a true fact, Frank? When you're showing up to inspection, do you think that they've called somebody else to a property?
Oh, yeah. Usually 2, at least, the minimum, maximum 3. But, yeah, usually somebody else or somebody else has been out there, or they already have a pest control company that hasn't solved that problem. That is existing.
And the other part of that is they may have tried and done something then.
Right.
They probably went down to the local hardware store, picked up a couple of traps, and they tried to do something themselves. Now, we need to know that going into it, but we can't fear it because this is on our website. We actually have a graph that you can download, and you can put problems, and you can draw a diagram, and there's charts, and we have one for commercial, and we have one for residential at jteaton.com. And those charts and making notes of it, it's similar to a termite inspection. You go around a building, you take your notes, but don't be afraid to share some of that with your customers, even if they are getting other estimates, because the buyers now, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Frank, you've read a lot, but the buyers now, when it comes to rodent control, with my experience, is information is money. Information is how they're making decisions. And the more information you give them, they're going to be able to rely on you a little more, because a guy is going to go around and do his inspection and say, yeah, I found 3 openings and they need to be sealed, and I'm going to set traps in the attic, and I'm going to put some bait stations around. But they're not going into that much detail. Pictures are worth 1,000 words. Take pictures of a few broken vents. Make sure you take notes. Point to your diagram you don't have to leave your diagram with the owner, but get your diagram, show them, hey, I found something here, I found something here. They're calling the pest control technician because they want him to do the job. They don't want to do it themselves for the most part.
Right.
So sharing your information with your customer is going to help them determine or help them better make the decision if there's multiple estimates. The other key thing is, we got to determine where it came from. Where is the infestation originating from? And rats now, I mean, when I started, I think it was 300 feet that the Norway rat will travel 300 feet from its food source. And now I believe it's up to 425 or 450 feet to its food source. So determining the food source, what's going on with the neighbors? I mean,
Right.
we can go onto Google and we can look at neighboring properties when we can see what's going on there. We can look at possible habitats for rodents, 400 feet away using Google, looking over the neighbor's fence. A quick story. There was a couple in Malibu, actually sisters in Malibu that were going at night and feeding the rats. And they thought of them as pets.
Oh.
And the city couldn't do anything. You know, I mean, there are different cultures, there's mental conditions, but these ladies were throwing out dog food, and they had to fumigate the house. It took them over 2 years, over a year, 2 years. I think it may be close, but it took them a while to get them out of that house. They fumigated the house, and they pulled out, I believe, 16 bags of rodents just in the house. So again, so knowing what your neighbors are doing and their feeding habits, the neighbors aren't bad, and we can't blame them. I mean, people leave out dog food all the time, or they're not picking up the fruit from their trees. Those can be your current customers. They can be, you can also pitch them for a rodent job, and you can, you may have 3 jobs out of the whole deal if you would knock on the door on the, to your left or right of the customer. But checking if the neighbor's having any issues as well will help you solve a problem. There are some very difficult problems that are difficult to control. Nesting locations. Let's say like in Florida, you guys got tile roofs there, right?
Right.
So when, in California, we have, and in Vegas, I'm living in Vegas now, there's a lot of tile roofs, and roof rats are moving in. I'm finding them in different states now. I'm finding them in different, they weren't before. The roof rats are moving in, but just because there's Norway rats doesn't mean that they can't climb. If there's flooding, if there's other, if you have, what did you say? You have rain there?
Yeah, we get during the summer. Yeah, no, we get during the summer, we get about 80, as much as 80, average between 60 and 80 a year during the summer.
Right. So think of Norway rats. If you have excessive, you're gonna have Norway rats that are good climbers. That's just the genetics. I mean, that's just the biology of them. They're built to survive. So you'll have some roof rats that are better climbers. But looking at tile roofs, with some of the older tile roofs, we're not able to inspect them properly. Some termite or pest control guys, I mean, they never go up on a roof. And I don't blame them. Most of the times we don't have to, but on certain tile roofs, the roof rats can get under and nest, and so can Norways, and even excessive shrubbery. You have a lot of overgrowth.
Right. That's a big
we
problem.
Can't tell. And I see that, and we can't tell our customers, hey, you know what? All that shrubbery and back is conducive to rats. You need to cut it back. They enjoy that shrubbery. They enjoy that look that they have. For the most part. I mean, some of them, there's just overgrowth that looks like a dump, right, or that have a lot of storage. Yeah, they need to clean it up, but they're calling you out. You can control the outside population using bait stations and other things. We can't always control our customers. So explaining and setting expectations, that comes in part with that. The empathy is the number one thing. It ties into that. But setting the expectations, because I see through, and I see through other stuff, some difficult problems, customers not cooperating. How am I going to solve this problem, especially in as well? It's like the place is a dump. How am I going to be able to control this problem? With rats, you can reduce the population. You can have some success. Or you can set expectations with your customer and say, hey, you know what? There is a lot of storage here, but here's what I can do. And I can work with you. So you don't have to cut all this down. We can install stations. But setting the expectations is paramount to a good job. Think of this. I opened up earlier is, when do people want a rat out of their house? They want it out yesterday. Now, if we look at the behavior of rats, the juveniles, that's what we're normally catching first. Okay? Like I say, young and dumb. They'll go in and we'll catch 2 mice on a trap. I love those pictures that guys send me, 2 mice on a trap or 2 rats on a trap. But for the most part, you're catching juveniles because, I think they dare each other. Hey, get that peanut butter. I dare you.
Right.
or get that stuff out of the trap, because I've even gotten pictures with 3 of them inside of a trap. But it can take an adult, to 2 days to get up to a trap. And so if you're setting your expectations and you say, hey, you know what, Miss Jones, I'm the best rat guy in the city. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to solve your problem. I'll be back tomorrow. But what if you're dealing with an adult that's trap shy, or that the homeowner has tried to use Victor snap traps on it, and you're using Victor snap traps on it, or you're using the same bait matrix that they did. Peanut butter is a common thing. Are you going to catch that adult rat in one day? Probably not. So setting the expectations is going to be key with your customers, and involving them in the process of doing that, because we need to know a little bit about biology when it comes to them, their habits, and that goes to when we know a little bit about their biology and their habits. And the internet is great. There's a lot of information in it. University websites are great. But here's the thing with university websites, or even websites in general. Your customer has access to all that same information that you do. What is going to separate you from your customer? A customer can go online and he can read all of the stuff you're going to do. They know how to do a rat job because they read about it. They brought it up on their phone, their iPad, their computer before they called you. What is going to separate you from them? And knowledge is key. You have to be able to look at the biology of the rodent and use that in your communication with your homeowner. Telling them, hey, you know what? You have mice or rats in your attic. A mice is, you got to talk about the range of a mouse. There's a lot of information that goes into the job. But that biology goes into where homeowners make a mistake, is your traps and trap placement and the human factor involved in that. Like, here's an example, Frank, is a homeowner is going to find a mouse in his kitchen. How many traps would you say that homeowner is going to go and buy?
Probably 2, 3 maybe.
Yeah, he's going to buy a 2-pack or a 3-pack or maybe even a 4-pack of snap traps that he's never used before, or even the easy set traps. Some of them are going to go in and they're going to buy the electronic traps. We got some customers that want to do it humanely, so they're going to buy our repeaters or our little Pete's. They're going to buy that so they can release the mouse into the wild. Right. So, but the biggest problem that I find in what separates the professional from the homeowner is using our traps. We need to put enough traps out there. An example is if there's a mouse underneath a cabinet, we're not going to use 2 traps. We're going to use 5 or 10 traps, and we're going to put them behind the refrigerator. We're going to put them behind the pots and pans. We're going to protect them inside of in boxes or different covers to try to keep them safe. We're going to put a lot of traps out in a particular area, and the homeowner is going to say, "Wow, I went and I bought 4 traps. The pest control guy put 10 traps." Because when you're dealing with mice or rats, it's a law of averages. We need to use enough traps and different styles of traps, and to get them. Because if a homeowner used a wood trap, we say they're trap shy. Well, what does it mean? What does trap shy mean? A trap went off, and they're probably not going to go to that trap anymore. But there's a thing that the mice and rats do. They communicate at ultrasonic frequencies. They actually tell each other, "Hey, stay away from that trap." They talk to each other. There's studies that show that a rat went up a pole. They electrocuted it before it got to the food. It came down and it told all the rats, "Hey, don't go up the pole. Stay off of the pole." And I give that example in my seminar because it can go to it can, that information that rat was shocked or that trap just nicked a mouse or a rat, they communicate that, and they can communicate it to 10, 15 other mice or rats, and none of them will go up to your traps. So the other part of that is the traps are too far apart, or bait stations are too far apart, and I'll touch on that in a bit. The different style traps. There was a post I saw the other day that a guy had three different rat traps out, or 3 different mouse traps out, and he used a little bit too much peanut butter, but that was cool. But that's an easy problem to overcome. But I love seeing a variety of traps. And the old timers used to say, and they still tell me, you know what, James, all I use is wooden traps. I say, awesome. Keep doing it. Are you successful at it? They say yes. I say, keep doing it because you're doing something right. You're solving problems. But for the younger generation, I always tell them, you know what, vary your traps. Get the Jaws traps. Even in some of your posts I've seen, with a variety of traps, which you prefer. I prefer all of them. Of course, I'm a manufacturer. I say, buy the Jaws traps. But that's just the marketing part of me. But using different style of traps, rats and mice are going to get curious about them. But the wood traps, they can set off easier than those plastic traps, than our Jaws traps. A mouse can actually stand on the top of the trap before it misfires. If the homeowner has done work there before in setting wood traps, wood style traps, switch up. Don't even use a wood style trap when you're there. Do something different. Some of the human factors on where you're placing your traps, boxes are great for traps. If they're high enough. And there's a thing that I like shoe boxes. That was before the trapping boxes. I know the trapping boxes were around. I didn't use them much. But the height of the hole, going into a hole. The mice have their antenna, and so do rats. They have like a little antenna on the front of their head. When something hits it, they want to dig. They'll duck. Make sure the hole is big enough. Make sure the hole to the box is big enough so the mouse wants to go inside. Use attractants inside of the box, to get them inside of there. The human factor when it comes to traps is this. I mean, have you ever had a trap, Frank, where you used a rat trap and the mouse or the rat got bloody?
Yeah.
Okay. Now think of this. What if that was on somebody's carpet? Using the right traps for the environment that you're in. I've had bloody rats all the time. A lot of time in my career, that stuff happens. So when you're using a rat trap, or a snap trap, the force of it, we have to pay attention to that. Is making sure that we are using traps that aren't going to draw blood, or they're in a box to try to prevent that from happening. The visual aspect of it. Let's say a glue board. What happens now with glue boards is there's environmentalists that have successfully got them out of Lowe's. They've got them out of other things because the humane factor of it. Glue boards are great, but you have to respond properly. You have to respond accordingly, because the customer is not going to want to see a struggling mouse. That their empathy kicks in. They feel bad about the mouse that's stuck on the glue board or the rat that's stuck on the glue board, believe it or not. Right. In some cultures, and glue boards are great. I mean, the environmentalists can look at it different ways. A trap is going to kill them. A glue board, you put a little vegetable oil on it, they can be released. But you have to be able to respond properly to that. Your snap traps with dogs, dogs or cats, they may get curious, especially if you're putting peanut butter on it. They may get curious and they may go up to those traps, and now you have an injured dog, if there's too much force on those. And that's why we designed our Jaws traps a little bit different. The spring pressure isn't as hard as a wood trap. And if a dog were to put his nose in it, it probably wouldn't hurt it. It's based on the trap is based on the width of the animal that's going in it. So you're not going to have a dog with a broken nose with the jaws traps, but you would with a wood trap.
Gotcha.
So, Frank, I know I'm going on and on. Do you have any questions so far?
No, I'm just listening. I'm absorbing, and I'm just looking at notes, and that's cool. You keep going.
I know. I got. I mean, in some of my seminars, man, some of the guys have seen me stand up on chairs and all this other stuff. I mean, I just get, and I think I mentioned to you, I get excited. I get excited. Right now, I think I'm on my second cup of coffee. I'm ready to.
No. It's perfectly fine.
Okay. There's an interesting thing what's happening now in the industry too. And we're talking about problems and we're talking about issues, is endangered species. Okay. California has really got into that.
Right.
And they say California, the land of fruits and nuts. Okay. We're crazy. We're crazy. Californians are crazy, these environmental activists and stuff. I service Hollywood. I service Beverly. I service movie stars, and I'm sure you do too. And all of us do in different regions. But here's the thing: when they get a rat in their house, when do they want it out? They want it out yesterday.
Right.
But in California, I mean, there's now. I mean, last I checked, I think there was 240 endangered and protected species. It's a unique environment. But like Hawaii has, I think, Hawaii had. What was it? Hawaii had a ton of endangered and protected species on that little island. What's happening in different areas is, we got owls that are dying, we got kit foxes that are dying, mountain lions are dying, and a lot of that has been attributed to homeowners as well as professionals. And I say professionals with a small, very, very small P, because we normally know how to use our product, but we haven't, in the industry, we haven't applied IPM to rodent control. Okay, we have in a sense where we seal it up, we try to control the food source, we set our traps, we remove the infestation, we reduce the population, by installing bait stations. But is that IPM rodent control? And taking endangered species or protected species into account. But endangered species aside, if you've ever poisoned a dog or seen a dog that had been poisoned, it's the worst feeling ever. And I've seen it. And let me preface that I didn't poison the dog. Okay. So somebody else poisoned when I was young. When I first broke into pest control, somebody poisoned a rescue that I had, barked a lot, and experienced that firsthand. But the thought of a dog, your own dog getting poisoned is crazy. The emotions that are tied to that. But that's the same way we should be when it comes to endangered species or protected species. We need to control, and with IPM and rodent control, we need to control how we bait. And I'll explain it this way. Number one, it saves money. Number two, we're not approaching a rodent job with exterior rodent bait stations with a sledgehammer or an AK-47. We're approaching it where we're just blasting everything. The IPM approach to rodent control around exterior bait stations, it goes something like this in my mind. And what I talk about is when you have a heavy infestation, yes, hit it with a sledgehammer. Go with your second generation baits. Put a lot of bait stations out. Fill up your bait stations. Knock it out of the park. But when that infestation has been reduce the amount of bait that you're putting in there, or switch to a first generation bait. Right. Okay. And then when it's further reduced, go to a trap, traps in your station and a first generation bait, a combination of the two.
All right. Explain for a second the difference between a first generation and a second generation bait. Okay.
A first generation bait, it's one of the first baits one of the first commercially viable baits on the market. In fact, JT Eaton brought the first bait block to the market. Okay, we were the first ones. We introduced the peanut butter and molasses bait block a long time ago, and that was the first generation bait. It goes back all the way back to 1940, okay, where we know, or most of the industry knows, what an anticoagulant is. It's a blood thinner.
Okay.
And what they did is they put that into a bait matrix and applied that toward rats. What they did with the second generation baits is they made them better, okay? Like, let's go back in the day where they used to give kids, this is way back, castor oil, and load them up on all these, medicines to keep them from getting sick, and these home remedies, here, drink this,
right.
All this stuff to try to keep them well if they got sick, to do it. Now you give them a pill, and they become well with this pill. Okay, a second generation is similar to that. It's been synthesized. It's stronger. You don't need as much of it. It kills in lower dose. It's very targeted. It's a great bait when it's used correctly. And second generation baits are the most common baits out there. I mean, everybody uses them. They work out really well. They do solve the problem. They were in the homeowner market, and they took them out of the homeowner market because of all the endangered species and secondary poisoning and children that were poisoned and stuff like that. But statistically, when you look at some of those studies, out of all the 15,000 cases a year that were reported to the Poison Control Center, there were seven between, I believe, 2003 and 2007 that required medical treatment. They required intensive treatment, okay? It's a very small percentage of people getting sick, but as far as endangered species, second generation baits are more persistent. They stay in the body longer. And think of this, inside of the cadavers that they're picking up on the side of the road, you may have crows that are picking at that cadaver that got hit by a car of a fox or something, and they're eating that, and there's second generation baits inside of that, or the owl. They're putting out all this second generation bait, and the owl's eating 8 to 10 mice a night, and it's feeding its young, and inside of these mice you have this second generation bait. The second generation bait is so strong that it has a cumulative effect, and it can stay in the body of an animal over 200 days, Frank.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So with the first generation bait, it normally processes out of the body of a 20-pound dog within about 90 days. So it's not as persistent. It's not as strong. So that's the difference. So I always look at the risk when I'm using it. Like if a homeowner has dogs around it, or if I'm treating a business across the street from a residential section, I don't want to really load up all the baits, because the mice and the rats are moving away from those particular areas into the residential area for nesting or something. And it could poison a dog. It could poison a bird. We just have to be careful about that. And I'll talk about some of the poisoning in a little bit. But on the bait stations, on the placements, proper bait stations for the environment. I mean, you have your preference of bait station, Frank. I mean, so did I. We bought them. We send our guys down. Hey, buy 10 cases of this, or buy whatever of this, and we go out and we put them out on a property. Well, now that's kind of changed. We reached a paradigm. It's changed. It's changed now. We need to use a proper station for the environment. One size does not fit all. Here's an example. You have kids let's say you have kids and dogs on an apartment complex. On a large apartment complex, 400, 500 units or whatever, and you're putting a plastic bait station out. Now, if you kick that station, does it open? And if it does, here's the issue. You have children and you have dogs there. What if they kick it? Will it open? So now JT Eaton makes metal bait stations. There's other manufacturers that have really good stations. I always say, give it the kick test, or use what's called urban camouflage. Some guys have painted their stations to conceal them. There's rock type stations that we make. There's our top load. Use something that if the public is there, that camouflages your bait station and make sure it passes those kick tests. Because here's the thing: let's say you have 15 packets of soft bait inside of a bait box. How many of them are going to come out of a non-targets? Rats pull their food. Mice, there's food caches. They'll get their bait and they'll want to take it somewhere else. If something startles them, they're going to drop it, and now you have these exposed bait in the environment. And number one, that's a violation. But the second thing is, all somebody has to say is, my dog ate the bait, and it's going to cost you, on an accidental poisoning, $12 to to get that dog treated nowadays, or more in some cases. The other issue with, and I think when we had talked, you had given me the top 10. You wanted me to talk about the top 10 issues. So this is of what I see. So I'm going down the line. I think I'm on number 7, Frank. So manage my time a little bit.
No, we're good. We're good.
All right. So when we're looking at the label, ask these guys. I gave out a lot of bait. I always encourage, on one of my tests that I did on Pest Cemetery, and then on some of the pest management, on the social media stuff, we gave away a lot of bait. And one of the things is always, to read your label. And it sounds silly, it's bait. Put bait in a box or whatever. But here's the thing. In my classes throughout the country, I ask people, how far are your bait stations apart? And I start throwing out numbers. Are they 60 feet apart? Are they 50 feet apart? The common thing that people use on residential and or on commercial have been taught, we're going to place the bait 50 feet apart. But here's the thing. You read the label, and the label says something different. The label says 15 to 30 feet apart. So if you're at 50 feet apart, the distance isn't that great. And the labels are there for a reason. Because there has been studies on this. When you have a heavy population, or you're having an area that's constantly infested with rats, let's say, or mice, you need to control your distance of your bait stations. You can't for mouse, you can't place them every 30 feet apart, because that's the maximum length that they'd want to go to their food source. So you may have one bait station that's always hit, and the ones to the right or left on it, they may never touch because of that distance of travel. So when it comes to rats, with your bait station, the label says, 15 to 30 feet apart. Granted, we can't always do that. But if you're having a heavy infestation, or you keep getting this property that's infested and infested, and you're not reducing the population, it's because you probably haven't read the label. So go back to that label and review it, because here's the other thing too. There's always a question is, well, how much bait should I have? A heavy infestation of rats. What do I need to put in there? The answer is, put enough bait that's going to kill the rats. But the label says you're going to use anywhere from 10 to 42 packets in that station. Now, using that high number 42, that's a lot of bait. So if it's a new account on a heavy infestation and you're trying to knock down the population and you're putting the maximum amount inside of each station, which is 42, look at your cost. You're going to be killing a lot of rats. They have to feed on the bait, and they're going to eat about, anywhere from an ounce to 2 ounces a day. So you have to put enough bait out to kill them. And you asked me about the first and second generation bait. Some of that was marketing, Frank. When we looked at the first generation bait, it kills in anywhere from 5 to 7, sometimes 9 days. Okay, it kills them. When we're talking about a second generation bait, it's going to kill in 3 to 5 days on average. But the first 3 days of both baits, the first and second generation bait, they're still able to eat. So we need to keep that in mind. And they're going to eat about an ounce to 2 ounces a day.
Gotcha.
So if you have a heavy infestation for that 3 days, if you had 3 rats there, 3 rats are eating, 9 ounces of bait. So you have to put enough bait in the stations. They're not gonna have that stop feed action like some of the other baits do. And there is another bait that's different that I recommend on high risk accounts, and it's called bromethylene. And JT Eaton makes a bait called Top Gun, and it's not an anticoagulant. It's an energy inhibitor. It's a neurotoxin. It's different. It has a stop feed action. This one works like a pill, because within 24 hours the rodent stops feeding. And I like to give this example with this bait. They come in half-ounce blocks. Okay, you don't need very much. 1 block will kill 10 mice or 2 rats. Now, that sounds like a strong bait, but here
you broke up a little bit.
It sounds like a strong, but here's the thing: it's strong for rats. It's strong for mice. A 20-pound dog would have to eat 33 half-ounce blocks in order to get poisoned. I had a monkey study, because JT Eaton has been in business so long. I was able to dig through some stuff, and I found a monkey study. And we're talking a child of 40 pounds would have to eat more than 40 blocks, in order to get a poisoning. But with our bait, that wouldn't happen with a child, because there's Bitrix in it. And Bitrix is a bittering agent that they use in mouthwash, so you can't drink it. They use in radiator fluid, so you're not poisoning yourself with radiator fluid. It's in a lot of different, Bitrix is in a lot of different products. It causes taste buds to, it's actually, the tests are actually performed on humans. So if somebody were to eat it, they actually spit it out. Dogs gulp their food. Bitrix doesn't affect them. They're still able to eat the bait, but they would need to eat a lot of the bait, body weight. But with the mice and rats, I equate it as far as time. It works really fast. It works faster than the first and second generation. Here's what it does: is the question I ask is, and we can ask your audience, or who's ever been drunk before? Or I ask the audiences, who's ever been drunk before? And this is the effects of it. And, I think only 3 of them in my lifetime have only raised their hand and admitted it.
Right.
But here's the thing. Think about somebody being drunk. This is how bromethylene works. Within 6 hours, you've had 6 beers. How do you feel? You're feeling, you're actually, Frank, you're probably one of the best dancers on the dance floor. Okay. If you were to drink, I don't know if you do or don't.
No, not like that anymore.
6 guy drinking a 6-pack or whatever, 6 drinks, he's the best dancer on the dance floor. He's moving around. Well, the mouse or the rat isn't going to feel the effects right away. He's going to feel them, but after 6 hours, he's not going to feel them that much. Okay. But now let's say you had 15 beers or 15 drinks. How are you feeling at 15 drinks?
Yeah, pretty sluggish.
Yeah, you're pretty sluggish. You're not making good decisions. So within 15 hours, a rat isn't making good decisions, or the mouse isn't making good decisions. He's found in places where he's trying to make it back home, doesn't know where home is. He's having internal cranial pressure. It's pushing on his brain. He has fluid buildup in him. He's not making good decisions. He's starting to lose energy. And then within 24 hours, he had 24 beers. He's passed out. Somebody will be passed out on the lawn somewhere. That's where we find, within the mouse, we start finding that behavior. So when you're using Top Gun or bromethylene bait, other manufacturers do make it, by the way. Even that's the bait that they actually sell in Home Depot now, or in some of the hardware stores. It's bromethylene. The difference is, you find mice and rats and they start dying in places you wouldn't expect them. But it does work quick. And they stop feeding after 24 hours because they're drunk, okay, or they're incapacitated. But within 48 hours, they're dead. Okay, so that's how it works. It incapacitates them so they don't eat anymore. Whereas your first and second generation, they're still able to eat for 3 days. But now here's a good thing about it is, let's say you're in bald eagle territory, okay, and there's a dead or dying rat there. The bald eagle can come and it can get that rat, and it only has a little bit of poison in it. Chances are it's not going to poison anything else because there's only that little bit in its stomach. It's not throughout its bloodstream. It hasn't eaten the same product for 3 days. And that's one of the advantages of using that particular product.
Gotcha. Okay.
So there's, with all that bait that I gave away and that our company gave away for testing and stuff, I asked for pictures back, and I got a lot of good feedback from it. But there is a thing when it comes to rodent baits, okay? Like even my company early on, when I was a manager, it's like, oh, this is what we bought. We bought this. We'd go through a lot of. We got stuck on it. I mean, for years we were using the same bait on particular properties. But here's the thing: when it comes to rats and mice, they have different food preferences. They're attracted to different foods. Sometimes if you're using the same bait over and over and over again, and let's say something scared a mouse or a rat that went inside of that station, now they're leaving pheromones inside of that station that says, hey, something scared me in here. And you may never have a mouse or a rat in that bait station again because you have those fear pheromones that have been left behind. And that's how they communicate is through their pheromones, through their urine. You can have, so if you change up your bait stations, if you change the bait within your station, let's say you switch from X brand to JT Eaton's brand, you're going to have good results by switching the types of bait, the formulation of bait, and even trying bait in different areas, trying different types of bait on an account. Now, if I were to go on your job, Frank, and I would go to say, send me, you're having problems with a really large account, you have 100 bait stations out there, you're not getting control. They're not taking your bait. What I would do is I'd bring out attractants, I'd bring out different types of bait matrices, I'd bring out soft baits, I would bring out competitors' baits, I'd bring out a variety of baits and see what they like, see what they're attracted to. Okay, and then switching up your bait is key. When you go to a large account, you're able to try different things. And if you get this large account, you're taking it from somewhere else. You're taking it from somebody else because there has been some form of rodent control there for the most part. But try new stuff, try attractants, try switching out baits, try testing out different baits, but label, for the legal aspect of it, make sure your bait stations are labeled properly. And a couple of the last things that I was going to talk about is on residential in particular. We're in the winter time right now. If you were to upsell your customers on a rat job, or even your current customers, your pest control customers, go out and offer inspections, offer insurance if you can for them. Look at places for contract where you can give them rodent insurance. If they have a tight house, or if they've had an infestation and you sealed up the building, you can offer them insurance. You can add that to your basic cost. So if you have a $40 monthly account or whatever, let's say $40 for conversation's sake. If you're to get a $40 account and sell them rodent prevention, okay, and added $5 from that, you gave yourself a raise just by doing that. But it goes in hand with that good inspection that I mentioned earlier in my conversation. Offer periodic inspections with that insurance. Hey, I'm going to check your house 4 times a year, and I'm going to do a rodent inspection on it, and that's part of your insurance. And you just do it during your normal service, and you're doing preventative measure on it. Okay. The other thing that I found is door sweeps, weather stripping. Become an expert at it. If you haven't done it, if you haven't installed door sweeps or done any construction, get into it. Practice. Pick up a hammer. Get in your garage. Practice making vents. Just like any profession, you need to practice. You need to practice sealing. You need to practice using your shears, buying the right shears, to cut wire. How do you cut sheet metal? There's a lot of crappy work out there. that I've seen, guys who seal up buildings against squirrels, I see a lot of good work out there, especially in the wildlife industry. They do really good at sealing houses. Pest control guys come in, a little bit of screen, they're shoving foil or a little bit of mesh in these holes. There's more to it than that. Get better at it so you can upsell it. Just because you seal a house doesn't mean it's completely sealed. Because rats, with the bite pressure on them, there's 4,000 psi bite pressure on the front teeth, and just as much on the back. I think it's 2,000 on the back. But they're able to chew through iron. The hardness index, it's right up there with iron, where they can chew through iron. The mesh and the wire and the metal flashing is only a deterrent. But get good at it. Practice with it. The other thing is cleanup. There's disinfectants that other manufacturers sell. Nisus sells a real nice one. But you can use it, if there's rats in the attic, people associate if you've communicated with them about the bacteria and viruses and other stuff, and about the urine, about the micro droplets, there may be a concern about that. Well, you can work on disinfecting it. You can work on spraying a disinfectant in the attic. You can fog the attic with a disinfectant to get into places, or do something, as an add-on service to try to remediate that issue. And then one of the last things is, you're done with the job. Now what? What are you going to do? What are you going to leave them with? Well, I mentioned the upselling. I mentioned the insurance. I mentioned the reinspection. But you can confirm an infestation is gone, because how can you communicate with your customer that an infestation is gone? Hey, I caught all the rats in your attic. I'm not catching any more. I'm done. Well, if you're close to solving the problem on the job, put out some baby powder. Put some newspaper in the attic or in areas. Look for footprints. Use things to monitor. There's D-Tex that you can use, made by Bell. You could use that toward the end of your service, and you can look for those droppings because they'll illuminate. You can look with the black light. There's stuff you can do like that to finish the job for the customer. Now what you've done is you've left your job and you've given them peace of mind, and you prevented false callbacks, because initially when you got there, they were afraid. They heard something. They saw something. Now what you're doing is when they hear a noise that their heater makes, they may think it's a rat. But what you've done is you've used a scientific method to try to eliminate that callback, and you've got that customer for life.
So let me cover a couple of things, because I know that you make more than just the rat stuff, the rodent stuff. You make the Weber, the pole. By the way, I love your big black pole.
Thanks, yeah.
Has anybody ever told you that before?
Hey, there's pest control guys listening, Frank. Watch yourself.
Yeah,
because they're gonna get you back.
But yeah, it's a really cool pole.
Here's the thing: we keep our web dusting poles really affordable. You can get them through major distribution. Some online places have them as well. But we keep those poles very affordable, and it's great for route techs. You're not putting a big fiberglass $80 pole out in the field.
Right.
When our poles, they reach 125 feet. They're 125 inches, which is just about 10 feet. With the web duster on top, and then the scraper. So yeah, those are good ones. But yeah, we do a lot of different stuff, man. We have like over 100 products.
Wow. Okay, guys. I just thought, well, they just make the rodent stuff, but then I saw that, the double pole is really cool, because you can put the scraper on one end and you can put the duster on the other, and then just switch around with that. So I thought it was a really, really cool, and it's really long because it opens up like three ways. So you can actually reach really stuff that's really high up, even almost in 2-story. So really,
with the short ladder, you can reach up 2 stories with that, and in most cases, because of your body height and then the ladder. So it's not much. It's for the occasional wasp nest too. The scrape, we're coming out. We're angling the scraper next year. We're going to start doing that.
Okay.
We put a little bend in it, a 30-degree bend, so so it wouldn't scrape up somebody's roof even have them complain about it.
Right. Yeah. No, I do a lot of like just the mud dauber wasp and the paper wasps here, and we get a lot of that. So constantly taking those down with the scraper, but really cool.
Yeah.
Anything that you want to that I didn't ask, that I didn't talk about that you would like to talk about the product, or your.
Here's the thing with our particular products, and the great thing. I know most of our pest control industry here, we got a lot of small family companies and everything. And I come from a small family company. It was great. I mean, I was able to learn a lot. They were educators by trade before they got into the business. I learned a lot. But what I always like, and I'll tell you this when I meet you at a seminar, man, we're a company that here's the deal. Don't believe me when it comes to my product. I want you to try it yourself. And that's why, I mean, people see me giving away products. I do it online all the time. I want guys to try my product. And here's why, because if I can make it better, I'm going to make it better as technical director and as JT Eaton and as a company. But the other thing is you got a family guy. Why does he want to pay $60 for a case of bait stations just to test it out? You know, it's good. They look good on paper. But where we're at is, you know what, hit me up for a few samples, hit up our guys when you go to the seminars and stuff and say, hey, I want to try that. Get it in your hand. You know, if you just want one, say, I want one device. Say, you know, if you're doing a big job or something and you're getting ready, reach out to your manufacturers. We got a lot of manufacturers online that are listening to you, or that you meet in seminars. If you don't go to a seminar, go to a seminar, get to know some of your manufacturers. They're great guys, and there's a lot of – I learn so much from them every time, Frank, and I can't encourage people enough to go and talk to them, meet them, form a relationship with them, have their phone number so if problems do come up. My biggest mistake that I've made was I managed my office good as a manager. My trucks were immaculate. I did good training. I mean, I was a stickler for image. But one of the things that I didn't do as much is reach out to manufacturer reps. And I think now with technology, it's so much easier. If somebody texts me in the middle of the night and I'm sitting down and watching TV, you know, or actually, I don't watch much TV, but I'm sitting down with my wife watching TV, so I have to. but one of the things, if somebody texts me, you know, they shoot me a text at 9 o'clock at night. I mean, most of the time I respond, you know, or I work out something. I'll call them in the morning. Hey, I got your message. I'll call you in the morning. But a lot of guys will do that, and they want to help you. And it's not always their product. It's like when you talk to Syngenta or you talk to some of the Bell reps. If they don't have the product, they're going to send you to the right person who does. And that's going to save a lot of small guys time, and it's going to save them it's going to save them time, and it's going to make them money. And with our product line, we have bed bugs, we have bed bug encasements, we have the new Buggo monitor, we have aerosols, our Kills Bed Bug Plus. We have a lot of things, and every device we brought out, I field tested it. I gave it to regular guys doing bed bug work, and I field tested it. I said, you tell me how. I know how it works on the laboratory. I know how it works in field conditions that I've done or that I've done with regular pest control guys. And that seems to go over well. I mean, our company has grown tremendously. We had a great year, and 10 years, and every year we have grown tremendously. So we're doing something right. And it's a good place to be. Just like, you know, when you got the formula down, I got a new book because I know you're talking about it. It's The Tools of Titans. You know, I know you promote books, but it's the tactics and routines and habits of billionaire icons and world-class performers.
What's the name of the book?
The new one it's The Tools of Titans.
Tools of Titans. Okay.
Yeah, and it's kind of what they do is a bunch of different, you can say, writings, you know, 3 or 4 page writings of all these different billionaires and icons and world-class performers, just like the label says. But, learn something new. Learn something new all the time, and especially when it comes to rodent control. Get on Google Scholar and bring up rodent studies and just look at what people are doing. It's real. I know a lot. My head is filled up with a lot. January is going to be 32 years in the business. And you know what? I get on Google Scholar and it's like, man, I'm just learning so much. I'm learning so much.
Yeah, that's where I do a lot of the studying that I do constantly on Google Scholar, because you get studies from all over the world that are verifiable studies. They're aren't by a blogger who wrote something, who decided to write something. That's the big difference.
Right. And it's not opinion either. I mean, with professionals, we give opinion. When I talk to somebody and I'm giving them advice, it's my opinion. But with some of the studies, it's not opinion. And how can you apply that? I mean, thermal imaging now, right now it's cold. It's cold in Vegas. If I were to shoot my house, I'd be able to find out all the areas I'm losing heat. If I'm losing heat and there's rats in the area, rats are going to be about 100 degrees. They're going to, the body temperature is about 100 degrees. They're going to want to go to where it's warm. So stuff like that, I mean, they need to keep their bodies warm. And in the wintertime, they're going to look for those warm places. Thermal imaging helps you find those warm spots in the winter, and then the cool spots, in the summer. So that's the new technology that's up, but that's a whole different topic, brother.
No, man, cool. I appreciate it so much. Hey, if somebody wanted to get a hold of you or JT Eaton, what's the best way to contact you guys?
Well, I keep it easy. My name, there's not even an initial after it, james@jteaton.com.
Okay.
And then on our website, it's jteaton.com. And I'm not afraid to give out my phone number. Text me if you got a question. My phone number is 330-840-8606. You can reach me on Facebook. You can message me. I try to make myself as available as possible, and so do our other reps. But we're a team, we're not afraid to take calls. Like if you're to reach my guy out in Ohio, he's not afraid to take a call from California. We're all here to help.
Got it. No, thank you. We've had a couple of talks over Messenger and things like that, and communicated, and it's been, I've had a blast. Thank you for, I know you're busy, and I know it's just past Christmas, and you're trying to take some time off from your family and relax and all that. So I do appreciate the time that you've invested with the audience, and I hope they appreciate it.
Hey, Frank, I'm never too busy for what you're doing, man. I appreciate you. I told you that before, and what you're bringing to the industry. There's a lot of solid guys out there. There's some BCEs out there that are really giving back to the industry, and I love to see that. And it's our turn to give back. Tap into my knowledge. You got something, you need something. I'll always be here for the industry, and especially for you, Frank.
Thank you, sir. It's been excuse me. It's been real fun, and
don't tear up, Frank.
I know I'm choked up about it, man. But no, it has been fun, and I hope the guys get a lot out of it, and especially a lot of the newer guys coming into the industry. There's a lot, the industry has a lot of turnover in a lot of areas, and with a lot of companies, and to have a resource like this to be able to just go in and get up to date really quickly is where I'm focusing right now for this new year also.
Right, and your program and a lot of other stuff helps bring them up to speed. And knowledge is power. The guys who want to know more are going to reach out. They're going to educate themselves, and hopefully they'll stay in the industry for a long time. But the industry is growing, man. The industry is growing, and we need more guys. Yes,
no, definitely here in Florida, I think is the fastest growing state for pest control right now is Florida. So it's
right. I read some of the pay scales, from around the country. And the pay scales were interesting because there was, they said, oh, well, the pest control guy is going to make $30,000. You know what? You talk to guys in different areas, different markets, they're making a lot more. But here's the thing. When I found out you can make more money with the more licenses that you got with my particular company, right. I got every license that I could. Yeah. And there's food safety. There's, there's the ACE program. There's just learn more. I mean, just study and learn as much as you can. You want to make more money? get another license and learn how to use it.
Right. Yeah, just stay ahead of your competition. It's like every other industry. You got to be able to constantly sharpen that saw and stay on the cutting edge.
Right. Or, and then once you got it, if you found something you really like, like bees or something, or, stinging insects, like some of the guys out there, focus on that. Right. And then network with other, pest control guys. Like if, let's say you're too busy to do rats or something, and I was a local rodent guy, I would want to get to know you. Give me some of your overflow work. You can't do it all.
Right.
You can't do it all, and you don't want to do it all.
Right.
There's some jobs that you may not want to deal with or have the time to deal with, and that was my case with certain bird work. I didn't want to dedicate the time to some of the really big jobs.
Right.
I subcontracted. I gave it to somebody else.
Yeah, no, that's what we're doing now with bee work. It's not something I want to actually get, spend 6, 7, 8 hours on a job of my time to do something like that. I have a guy that, has a certified roofer, and he can open up that hole and seal it up, and it's a one-stop shop, and it's a great relationship.
There you go.
Yeah, because he can just open up that roof for the client, get that bee out, and then reseal it back and get it all done. The customer doesn't have to go hire a contractor or a roofer. He can do the whole thing. So yeah,
right.
Yeah, that's it's figuring out where your weaknesses are, where your strengths are, and playing your strength, and not try to do everything yourself.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, well, James, I know. We're up about 120 right now, so my audience will probably drop me already. After 120, but no, they enjoy the good long content. So all the information that they can get, they really, really do enjoy it. And
right. Well, we'll see who listens. If not, maybe they can pick up the other half of it later on. So it's all good, Frank.
No, I got guys that are on 2-hour drives. I just listened to that podcast on a 2-hour drive. So that's really cool, though. It all works. Everybody's, I'm getting good feedback. People are really liking what we're doing. And, the more knowledge that we can put out there is what we're really, really, really focused on. So
good deal, Frank. Anything else, man? Are we done?
No, we're done. Go? We're good to go, buddy. Take care of yourself.
All right. Time to hit the gym. I'll talk to you soon, Frank.
All right, man.
Stay well, huh?
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Pest Geek Podcast. If you have enjoyed the Pest Geek Podcast, please give us a rating, write a review, or subscribe to the channel. You can join the Pest Geek Society by visiting pestgeekpodcast.com. Thank you for listening. See you next time.